A soldier has just finished the hardest thing the Army will ever ask of him. A final march across the West Virginia mountains, no idea if he passed, because no one at Fort Bragg will tell him the standard. Then a door opens. Inside waits the commander of Delta Force, the unit's psychologists, and a table of instructors who spend an hour taking his mind apart. The commander shakes his hand and says one word, selected. But that handshake did not make him an operator. It bought him a seat in the room where operators are actually made. That room is a course. It runs about 6 months, and it fails close to half the men who just survived selection. So before we get to the shooting, the breaching, and the squadron that will one day trust him with a hostage's life, we have to sit in that first room with him. Because what the commander says next is the thing almost everyone outside the fence gets wrong. The board is the last gate of selection, and it is nothing like the mountains. For 3 to 4 weeks, the candidate has been alone. Land navigation over the Appalachian ridgelines, a rucksack that gets heavier every day. Distances and time limits the cadre deliberately keep secret, so that a man can never pace himself, never coast, never know if he is winning. The whole assessment is built to strip away the audience. There is no drill sergeant screaming, no clock on the wall, no feedback, just a man, a map, and his own head. Then, at the end, it all comes back at once. He walks into a room and stands in front of the commanding officer, a panel of instructors, and the unit psychologists who have been reading him the entire time. They ask him questions and pick his answers apart. They are hunting for honesty, for a man who can admit a mistake instead of burying it, for the temperament that fits the culture of the unit. And they are not the only judges in the room. Peer evaluations, the ratings the other candidates gave him during the weeks they suffered beside him, are weighted heavily here. If the men he trained with did not trust his attitude or his head, the board already knows it before he opens his mouth. The question underneath every question is brutally simple. Would these men want him in a cramped room during a hostage rescue, or on a politically radioactive raid where one bad call ends careers? Former operator Eric Haney, one of the plank holders who helped build the unit and later wrote the most detailed account we have of it, described this board as the moment the unit decides not whether you are hard, but whether you are right. Hard got you to the door. The board is about judgment and about trust, and the men already inside get a vote. And here is the part that matters. When the commander finally tells a man he is selected, he is not certifying a soldier who is ready to fight. What he has in front of him is raw material and nothing more. Selection does not teach a single tactical skill. It does not qualify anyone on a weapon, a breach, or a target. It answers exactly 2 questions. Can this man drive himself past the point where every reasonable person quits, with nobody watching? And can the men already inside trust his mind and his temperament in a room with no rules? That is it. That is the whole thing. Everything the public imagines when it pictures a Delta operator. The shooting, the entries, the intelligence work. None of it has happened yet. Which is why the week after selection is such a strange, quiet gut punch. There is no parade. A man has just beaten an assessment that washes out roughly 9 of every 10 candidates who attempt it, some of them already Green Berets and Rangers with combat tours, and his reward is to be told that he is now, once again, a beginner. He does not get sent to a squadron. He does not get a mission. He gets a class date, and if you have ever watched a proven, decorated professional get walked back to the very bottom of a ladder he thought he had already climbed, you know exactly how that lands. The pride of selection and the humility of what comes next arrive in the same handful of days. And the change runs deeper than his schedule. It reaches who he is allowed to be. In those first days, the man effectively goes dark. His association with the unit becomes classified, carried on paper as something else, an assignment his old friends cannot place, and his own family may never fully understand. The rules he lived under for his entire career quietly fall away. The regulation haircut is gone. Operators are allowed hair and beards that would get any other soldier written up on sight, not for style but for function. So a man can stand in a foreign market and read as anything other than an American soldier. The uniform goes in the closet, and even the ones they are issued are of a nature the unit keeps classified. Rank stops being something he wears or announces. The details of what he now does are his to protect, and he is expected to say almost nothing about any of it, to anyone. A week earlier, he was a decorated sergeant with a recognizable place in the Army. Now he is deliberately unrecognizable. That erasure is not something they resent. Being unrecognizable is part of the job now, and for most of them it starts within days of that handshake. There is one more thing waiting for him, and it is the course that actually earns him the title. It is called the Operator Training Course, and almost everything the public knows about it traces back to that same account from inside the unit, because the modern version is not something Fort Bragg discusses. Roughly 6 months, that is the length most sources put on it, and the number matters, because it dwarfs selection. And here is where the popular picture gets it backwards, over and over. People argue about the 40-mile march and the land navigation as if that is where Delta operators are forged. It is not. Those weeks in the mountains are a filter. They exist to make sure the unit never wastes 6 months of expensive, irreplaceable instruction on a man who will fold when the standard gets impossible. The forging happens after the handshake, in the months no one puts in a highlight reel. And it starts with the one skill everyone assumes these men have already mastered: shooting. If you are getting something out of how specific this is, that Fort Bragg keeps most of it off the record, and the honest picture comes from the men who lived it, do subscribe, because this channel exists to keep that picture accurate instead of inventing it. Now, the marksmanship block. You would think a man who just beat Delta selection can already shoot. Many of them arrive as some of the best gunfighters in the entire army, with combat rotations behind them. Then the course shows them the standard, and it is merciless. It is merciless for a reason. The unit was built for hostage rescue and precision raids, work where the man you are shooting is often standing an arm's length from the person you came to save. In that world, good enough for combat is a failing grade, because good enough for combat gets the hostage killed. So the course does not train these men to be good. It trains them until being surgical is the only thing their hands remember how to do. According to accounts from former operators, new men fire more rounds in the opening weeks of the course than a lot of soldiers fire in an entire career. The demand is not just accuracy, it is accuracy at speed, under stress, with the outline of a hostage inches from the target, drawn and fired over and over until the hands stop asking the brain for permission. They build up to a live-fire shooting house, close-quarters rooms cleared with real bullets. And the one detail that tells you everything about this unit is the trust exercise buried inside it. In the accounts that have come out, senior operators will sit inside that house, in the chairs, playing the hostages, while students fire live rounds past them into the targets behind. Think about what that asks of both men. The one in the chair has to believe, completely, in the hands of a student he barely knows. The student has to be good enough to earn that belief, and steady enough not to betray it. That is a kind of trust the mountains never tested. Out there, the only man who had to believe in him was himself. In the shooting house, other men are betting their lives on his hands, and they will not do that for anyone the course has not already made surgical. But the biggest surprise for most new men is not the gun work. It is discovering how much of the job has nothing to do with pulling a trigger. Delta was never meant to be heavier infantry. From the very start, it was designed to work in the open world, in a suit as often as in kit, and the course reflects that. New operators are put through tradecraft that looks far more like intelligence work than soldiering. Surveillance and counter-surveillance, learning to follow a man through a crowded city without being seen, and to feel it in the back of the neck when someone is doing the same to them. Lock-picking and bypass, getting through a door that was never meant to open, and leaving no sign that anyone was ever there. Defensive and offensive driving, the skills to run a protection detail through traffic or punch a vehicle out of an ambush. Executive protection itself, because the same unit that clears a compound at night might be quietly guarding a principal the following week. This is the half of Delta the movies never show, and it is the half that makes the unit what it is. An operator is far more than a shooter. He is a man who can be dropped into a foreign city in civilian clothes and simply function, invisibly, for as long as the mission needs him to. None of that could be tested in the mountains. It has to be built in, and this is where the unit builds it. All of it builds to a final exercise, a long and layered problem that stitches every block together, marksmanship and breaching, and tradecraft and planning, into one graded run. And only when a man passes that, at the end of the roughly 6 months, does he finally become what he set out to be. This is the real badge, and it is worth saying plainly, because it is the whole point of this video. The moment that makes a Delta operator is not the 40-mile march that every documentary loves to film. It is a quiet graduation from a course the public barely knows exists. The march got him through the door. The course made him the thing on the other side of it. And even then, the phrase mission ready still has soft edges. Because graduating the course does not hand a man a finished frozen skill set, it hands him a foundation, and the unit spends years building on top of it. Delta operators are funneled out to a string of follow-on schools most people never connect to the unit at all. Military freefall, the high-altitude parachute qualification, so a troop can leave an aircraft at the edge of breathable air and open low and silent over a target. Combat diving, run through the Army's dive school in the waters off Key West, so a team can arrive out of the sea instead of off a helicopter. Language training, real working fluency in the tongues of the places they expect to work. Arabic, Korean, Russian, and more. Stack-on breaching, advanced trauma medicine, sniper and reconnaissance craft, and the picture changes completely. So an operator is less a man who finished a course than a man who never stops taking them. And the men cross-train deliberately, so that inside a small team, there is redundancy in every critical skill, and losing one man does not take a whole capability off the table with him. Mission ready, then, is not a date on a certificate. It is a standard the operator keeps chasing for the rest of his career, and the day he graduates is closer to the start of that chase than to the end of it. So now he is an operator, finally, and the unit hands him one last dose of humility. He is assigned to a squadron. Delta's assault squadrons are lettered A, B, C, and D, and inside each one sit 3 troops, 2 built for assault and 1 for reconnaissance and sniper work. A new operator almost always goes into an assault troop first. The recon and sniper troops tend to draw the more experienced men, the ones who have already proven themselves inside the unit over years. Which means that after selection, after 6 months of the hardest training pipeline in American special operations, after the schools and the shooting house and the final exercise, a brand new Delta operator walks into his squadron as the new guy, the least experienced man in the room, surrounded by operators with rotations and reputations he does not have yet. He has earned the qualification, and now he has to earn the trust all over again, at the troop level, on real operations, from men who will not simply hand it over because a course said so. In the unit's culture, that trust is neither a formality nor a quick one. It is watched, tested on the range and on live target packages, and granted slowly by men who have buried friends and do not gamble on unproven hands. Being an operator is a status the course confers. Being trusted is the last and longest gate of all, and the squadron grants it on nobody's schedule but its own. And that is the shape of the thing almost no one outside the wire understands. We picture Delta selection as the great trial, the mountains and the ruck and the secret standard, and we imagine the man who beats it walking straight into legend. The truth is stranger, and honestly more impressive. Selection is only the unit asking one question: can you survive yourself? The course is the unit asking a harder one: can you carry the mission? And the squadron asks the hardest one of all: will the men beside you bet their lives on you? And keep betting, after the novelty of your tab wears off. 3 different gates, 3 different kinds of proof, and the famous one, the one everybody argues about online, is only the first. So here is the thing worth arguing about, and the comments are the place to do it. If selection only screens, and the operator training course actually builds the operator, then the hardest, most defining thing these men ever do is not the march everyone knows about. It is the 6 months almost no one does, the crucible the unit will not put on camera. If you still think the mountains matter more than the course, make the case below. Because that argument is exactly the kind this channel exists for, and the video already on screen breaks down the Delta standard no other unit has ever been willing to copy.